Can't do it that way. Mm-mm. I'm so sorry. I can't do it that way. Crap. I have to do it a different way. Hold on. Let me like crap. I can't do that way. I'm so sorry.
Do you want me to do it? I can do it. Let me do it. Hold, please, everybody. It's coming up. Just give me a second. I'm pulling up our presentation. There we go. I think we got it. Can you see it on the screen? If you don't mind, Stephen, thank you very much.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that.
The music may not be playing because I don't know why, but that's fine. Hey guys.
I can put on mine.
Well, I think I just have to push play or something, or unmute, refresh it. I don't know. It's not working. That's okay. We could just skip it this week. You guys know. Hey, everybody! Yeah. It is Nova and Miriah. We are here. This is Poppy's Field Project podcast, and we're gonna have a lot of fun tonight. Miriah, she's been kicking butt. She's doing a lot of like schooling and teaching, or not teaching, but like studies and stuff like that. So she's out and about in the world. And we're going to continue with our discussion about the Sleeping Phoenix that is going to be taking effect in 2027. And we usually get together each Wednesday. Matthew's not going to be here because he's also out and about and his traveling somewhere. But we usually get together on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern. 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern. So check your clocks wherever you are. We're probably going to go for like an hour and a half today because Miriah might be in a different time zone. I'm not quite sure. So we don't want to keep her up too late. So we probably will be continuing a lot with this topic, maybe into next week. The reason why is it has to do with human design. And a lot of you probably are familiar with human design or are starting to get familiar with it. And this is based off of human design, the Sleeping Phoenix. And it has to do with the I Ching, also the Kabbalah and astrology. Let me think, is there anything else to it? I'm trying to remember. But anyways, so what it does is it maps out your body. It maps out like the consciousness and the collective and the gates that are, there's all these gates that are within this. And what it does is it shows like where humanity is going to be and cycles within cycles, within wheels, within wheels. We've talked about this several times just in general about the wheels within the wheels and cycles in the last 4 years of our podcast. And so this is not surprising that there's another one because we are closing up a 412-year era of planning where we all were dependent on institutions, politicians, religions, medical practitioners, healers, blah, blah, blah. All of those people are going to now dissolve. Not necessarily into the thin air, but you're not going to be dependent on these entities or people or groups any longer. Because this is a time for individuation, and this is something that we were talking about last week. And I think it's probably I need to go to the right slide here because I'm like at the very beginning of the actual presentation. So I apologize. Let me get myself adjusted here. Here it is. Okay. And the song will probably play now. So we'll just let the song play and you guys like think about that for a second.
Okay. Think of monkeys.
And that's what you call the Matrix. You never know what's going to happen right in the middle of stuff. So this is the beauty of like the Matrix. It can be very frustrating, but if you just laugh about it and go, yeah, whatever, we don't have to be perfect, because we're such a perfectionist, weird, controlling species. I don't really give a shit. We're just gonna have fun with it and go with it because Miriah and I are both intelligent beings, and that's enough for me and our audience out there too. You guys appreciate, uniqueness, I would gather. That's why you're here today. So yes, the sleeping phoenix, it's this symbolic concept that, you'll find in spiritual esoteric traditions and these cycles of death and rebirth. And we talked about Pluto last week. We're going to go over a little bit more. The reason why is because Pluto, it also has a play in this cycle, but it has its own cycle within that cycle. So it's a cycle within a cycle with a cycle, and there's many cycles because the planets are considered luminaries. So what happens with Pluto? It went into Capricorn the last 20 years. We know that moved into Aquarius, and now we're all like, "Yay! It's the age of Aquarius, woohoo!" But yet Pluto in Aquarius is not so woohoo. It's going to be death, destruction, rebirth, and we can see this what happened in Capricorn, that it also started that death process. Because why? That's where winter starts. So, in context of human design, along with Pluto that goes into Cancer, there's this shift that can be interpreted of like where humans are going to start going, whoa, I didn't realize that this is happening. And we have already been in this state where all this information has been coming in, but now 2027 is coming, and all that information, we're not going to have that time to do that. Because now there's just going to be this potential of an emergence of a new era of consciousness, and that sleeping phoenix manifests for humans for that exploration is where we have individual sovereignty, differentiated spirituality. So that means that you're going to look within yourself for God. You're not going to be outsourcing any kind of outsourcing anything, which is actually great because that means over time licensing is going to end. It just came out of the woodwork anyways. It never used to exist. So anyway, so this whole 2027 shift is going to be the end of tribal, any type of bargain and contracts. And so it's going to be individual self-empowerment. And this is going to awake within each unique individual within their spiritual path, their business, their external authority, and or religious structures and health structures. So this is where humanity is really going to, do this collective system of belief that's, going to be more of a character that recognizes its own connection to source, which is great. That means, hopefully a lot of the pedophilia and all this elite stuff is going to dissolve. Now, it's not going to happen all at once in 2027, This is a 412-year cycle, so give it about 100 years. And when you look at, we're going to go over some history first, and then we're also going to project into the future to see where we're going to be in the next 100 years, because we are right now feeling suppression with data centers and surveillance. So let's get started, everybody. How's it going, Miriah? How's your classes going?
It's very good. I'm at a herbal conference and I had an intensive day. But the vibes are high.
I
I'm
appreciate
going to be
you here.
What's up?
I appreciate you being here,
Oh, yes.
regardless.
I have some homework, and that is to sleep with this mugwort plant. Sleep next to it.
Interesting. You're gonna have
Yeah,
dreams about the mugwort plant?
exactly. And so we're just learning this particular class. We're just really getting into the sensories of how to really, look at a plant and identify a plant. And what I love it too is like the planets and the plants are all connected. So like medical astrology is like one of my favorite parts. And since we're like talking about like Pluto is not necessarily always associated with like a specific plants as much as like Venus and Mars. Saturn, Jupiter are like the inner planets, but you can kind of like start to, when you start learning the I guess personalities of the plants and the planets, you can start to like correlate.
Cool. Mm-hmm.
What's interesting is what you're talking about. We're gonna be going through Pluto, going through these different zodiac signs, where we're at 5 degrees now in Aquarius, slowly ticking,
Mm-hmm.
right? But he's always just
Right.
there. And I wanted to point out that during this time, like you're pointing out 2027, Pluto just went into retrograde on May 8th.
Mm-hmm.
And last week I talked about how Pluto is in retrograde about half of its time as it's
Right.
orbiting. And so that means that half the people born in that generation are going to be questioning the status quo, and the other ones are going to be more like aligned with like what they're being told. And so
Right.
with all of these signs, we're going to have that retrograde. So it's going to be in retrograde until October 18th, 2027.
Mm.
So
Really
this whole
close to the next year.
yeah, probably moving
So
closer
what's
to
interesting is that there's
Capricorn.
probably going to be some pregnancies during that time, and they'll be born in 2027.
Exactly. All
So that
retrograde.
retrograde is going to affect. Cool. That's actually good, because that's a good thing, because the way things are going right now, we're going to need some people to rise up, and that's actually going to be anticipated. Doesn't mean it's going to happen right away, but over time it will, because we're looking at this transiting into Aquarius, and how that affects the generation of time, like of 12 months, with this whole transit of Pluto. And we also went into Libra and Hades, the Hades moon, and how Pluto, when it conjuncts or opposes or squares Pluto during these transits through Capricorn, through Cancer, that it's called Hades moon, which is Pluto. And so, this is where we talked like how there's going to be rage, and when there's Mars energy involved, it's because Mars is more quick. It's like pew, rage, and then it sparks out. But Pluto is just like this long, dragged, 20-year, like, I'm just gonna. Well, actually, it's 167-year drudge of like, well, the last 81 years didn't work out, so we're gonna just boom, 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 just get all the sludge out, and all the shit, and all the the suppression, all the things that this planning of 400 years of suppression, oppression of the people, and now we're entering this era where we know that what lived eventually dies, and something new emerges from those ashes, and that would be the phoenix. So this is a very we're going to be we are entered into a very dark period, and that started with Capricorn, and you all know why. The thing in your arm did what it did, and and how that darkness is going to spread throughout these children that are going to be born in the future, because they're going to be carrying a lot of that trauma. So and in these manifesting generators, they're actually the ones that are going to be carrying it. And I have a friend, or someone that is I've had several lifetimes with, not necessarily on this planet, but just as an energy and creation and stuff like that, geometry. And he is going through a really rough patch right now. He doesn't even want to exist, because he's resisting his human design right now and his gene codes. And these are really important, because if you do have this sleeping phoenix in which is the right cross of the sleeping phoenix in human design, you're really supposed to bring in like the new world. But he doesn't have the sixth line in any of them. And the sixth line is when you are at the roof of the house and you can see it all and know everything. And I actually have one. I have one of these gates, which is pretty cool. And it's the 54.6. If you have a point 5 through 1, you're not going to be in this circle of like leaders who are going to actually bring in the new age. So mine, it's called the witness, and it's the drive to be selective in building an empire. And I was just stating this last week, that I have been saying, I want to build an empire. I want to build an empire. Who's going to build an empire with me? And it's not like I'm going to be like, this person on a throne that is going to rule over everybody. But I sense, I've been sensing this change for a very long time, Miriah, as you know, and I'm ready. And it's in my human design is like, let's get moving, let's move this. So if you have a manifesting generator in your life, make sure that they are healthy and happy, because they might be going through a lot right now, especially if they're going through uh they haven't gone through their Uranus opposition in Uranus or their Chiron return yet. And that's actually what's happening. He's got his Pluto opposing his moon. He's got Uranus opposition of Uranus coming after that. Actually, it's already 7 degrees width of it. And then it's going to be on his descendant with my south node on it, opposing his ascendant, which is also opposing my north node. And then it's going to cross over into the 7th house of relationships, and then hit his own north node in Gemini. So I'm just like, hold on for 8 more years. I go, your 40s are going to suck if you don't just laugh about it, because it's literally breaking your house down. So good luck with that. Anyway, so Miriah was talking about the Plutonia mist last week, and she didn't really get a chance to go over that because we weren't able to get the slides moving, and then she
Please do not.
bounced out. So
Yeah,
let's start with that. Let's go over this again.
for sure. So the plutonium mist, as we all know, there's the platonic elements and the platonic shapes. So this is kind of the basis of reality is that sacred geometry, but what the plutonium mist is sort of this sort of creating the reality, creating an illusion of time, right? And if you think about what Pluto kind of is kind of this ruler of the underworld, but this outer like vessel that's always kind of watching. Anyway, so the plutonium mist. So spatial things are primary reality shapes composed of frequency waves. And so this is kind of seeing some of those frequency waves, but in between, like the capsules of time, if you will. This is also where magic and things start to happen, is like this plutonium mist. So triangle land, for instance, creates the now, and that's what the mist is all about, the essence of all the happenings now, not where time isn't really linear. And so this physicist, Julian Barber, he calls it his Barber's universe. And this is what he was kind of talking about, which I thought it was really interesting because it is tied into, you know, the whole sky clock. It always is. So we live in this Plutonia type of universe, in his mind, or how he explains it. So it's a stack of moments that constitute of the sum total of all existences in time. So when, like, even when I get hypnotized, I can kind of just plop and go to another realm of time, another capsule of time. So kind of is interesting. So he's looking at it as like these snaps of time. And that's why when we even look at this history, we're like, well, those were the medieval times, or those will, you know, these times. They're kind of categorized, and kind of categorized, I think, according to this mist, and it's super mystical, of course. So these fixed time capsules, time does not flow, but instead each of these time capsules contain an entire slice of cross section of the world as it is just then. So micro moments of our thoughts, when taken together with all the other micro moments, give us illusion that time is actually flowing. And so the mist around it kind of encapsulates what we think of time in history, a history in time. It's quite interesting because like when you look at illusionists, really, too, right? They have the mist come in, so it kind of looks
right. Look over here while they're doing something
brings
else.
in another essence, but it kind of encapsulates that like area. And
yeah, it's like that distraction that most of us have, right? You know, we get distracted by like all these other things, and then underneath the surface, you know, they're fucking putting a million gazillion data centers everywhere to fry everything and surveillance all of us.
that's going to be making a completely false mist, right?
Right.
Or is it
Totally.
is it creating something outside, like an extra false grid, a digital prison, inside outside? Are they just, do they open up portals and they're just like letting all these creatures come out?
Yeah. You
We
never know,
fucking
man.
have no
It could
clue.
fucking totally work. Well, because CERN, you know, and actually, you know what? I had a discussion on Telegram. And by the way, for those of you that are here, remind me that I'm going to open the chat tonight on Telegram. We had this really amazing discussion. You know, there's always really highly evolved people on Poppy's Field Project channel when they come in. And it seems to be advancing even further. There's like some oldies there, but there's some new people. And this new woman named Anna, she came in and she started talking about this series. She said it was a movie, but it's actually a series. It's called Steins Gate, and it's talking exactly about what you're talking about, where what they're trying to do is beat Father Time, because you know that's the whole point, is you have to beat Saturn in order to get out of the loop. And so, and it has to do they actually one of the women in the animation, she works for CERN, right? But it's spelt SERN. It's a Japanese anime. And I actually just posted it on Puppy's Field Project in the group. So if people want to watch it, you can watch it with me, because I watched already like a few episodes. So I'm not quite sure because she says it's a movie. So, but I'm like, no, this is not a movie. This is a series. So I'm wondering if I'm missing something. But it's kind of funny, but it also has to do with like um, where it's a time capsule and where they are able to um, break time and figure out. And so I don't know the whole story yet because I just started it. But it's going to be a fun journey. So this whole misty thing of we don't know what CERN is doing. I mean, even in this anime, it was built. It was like 2010 when they made it. They said that it said that CERN already succeeded in opening portals. So it's probably true. It's probably true if they're saying it.
Well, and this whole mist is part of the Hollywood, the
Right.
holy road, right? So they create these ideas and plant it in the public mind, farming the mist by culling minds. So that's almost sort of like the loosh again, right? Because our third eye, like we are able to kind of create our reality around us. And so the 6D, the sixth dimension, is the land of the geometric configurations permeated with this mist. So we could look at that 369 because we're living in the 3D. And 3D is that triangle. So in the triangle, that's sort of like the land of the mist, it creates the now, and right. And that's why all cultists have triangle for many different reasons, but the events in the 3D are where possibilities are infinite. So within that container, it's all the frequency waves. So if it's the right geometry, the right mist, right, coming from the 6D, you can create. And so it's creating the mind control. And Hollywood uses that obviously when everybody goes into a movie theater, if it's scary, if it's funny, if everyone is.
What do you think about the mist like in concerts?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
What are they putting in that stuff?
And then I get I'm like, I'm gonna have a brain aneurysm. There's too much stimulation.
I know. I don't know. I saw Nine Inch Nails. Actually, it wasn't Nine Inch Nails. It was How to Destroy Angels, which is Trent Reznor's wife in Nevada. It was in Las Vegas, and they had the coolest fiber optics ever. They were in these square boxes, and the fiber optics were like these strings and strands that came down. Oh my god, it was incredible. It was totally different. It was not lasers. It was just fiber optics. It was amazing. Anyways, sharing a little moment of mist.
The boxes 369, doesn't make the cube.
Right.
I should pull up that
That's what
chart.
these were cubes. And they were at the very beginning, they had a veil in front of them. So it looked like there was mist, but it was these fiber optic strands.
Ooh.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So according to this plutonium mist theory, history is not something that happens in time. It is a path through a landscape in the mist inception. And so history has already been laid out for you. Where do you want to visit? Kind of situation, right?
Right.
It's not something that happens in time. It is a path through a landscape in the mist. Inception.
Did I share
that it's all
my
been
story
into our minds? Yeah, go ahead.
Did I share the story of the golden mist that I saw at the super blood blue lunar eclipse in 2018 with you on the show? I don't remember. Was that on the podcast or on the chat? It might have been on the chat. But there was a gold mist that my friend and I saw at the Great Sand Dunes. You know where that is in Colorado. So what you're saying, but the thing is you'd move in and out of it and it wouldn't move. It was just floating, and it was this light, golden light, but it looked like mist. So I'm wondering if it has what you're talking about. If that was what I was seeing.
I mean, maybe. I mean, obviously, there's like, nature creates mist and fog and stuff, but
But it
the
wasn't
sand
it wasn't
itself,
mist, it was in the dark. It was in the dark, and then when it became light out, you could still see it, but it didn't move. It was stationary.
hmm.
Like, you'd move through it, and it wouldn't, like, wisp away, you know how you can play with mist,
There's a weird
and
energy
move
with
it?
the sand dunes. I think, there's probably definitely some alien
Yeah,
technology
there
going
is.
on inside. Like, where did all the I don't know, something up with that. I could feel
Yeah, yeah,
it.
yeah. Well, it's the cosmic highway, right? That's that whole area. There's a lot of things that I saw when that night, but
Under
that
the
was one
ground.
in particular, was this mist. And I'm wondering if that is actually what I was seeing.
Yeah. Any of
Ah.
our listeners, like, have you experienced this mist? I mean, obviously, like, you know, but I even like drove in some fog yesterday morning at like 3 a.m. It got really cold in Colorado, and it was just like all of a sudden fog on top, right? But or it settles
Mhm.
into meadows. But the cloud is another part of this, right? So there's a when I was looking up like the Plutonian mist, it came with mist, MIST with dots, right? Like abbreviation. And that is cloud intelligence. The fictional universe of Pantheon Mist is a sentient cloud intelligence created from code. It is another
Hmm,
form of artificial intelligence.
interesting. That's
Oh,
what I was wondering, 'cause we were having this discussion last night, I
yeah.
was like, "Is it plasma?" But maybe it was code because it was holding plasma in place in geometry, is what I was thinking.
But it's almost like the dark plasma. Because it's bringing
Mm,
in more of like the dark and more of like the AI, not like plasma. I think for me is more of like tapped into the 2D with the telluric crystal energy to me. And
right.
also because it's Pluto, maybe, but like this mist can come up and like, bring death. Um,
Mm,
and that's even what they would say about like Black Plague. Supposedly, there would be this mist.
missed.
People were going
Has
around and
anybody in the
misting,
audience seen what we're
and
talking
they looked
about
like
at
death,
all?
right?
Or
They
anybody?
didn't have it wasn't a blade. Supposedly they were spreading this mist around and everybody was getting sick. Or supposedly they were just spraying them with pesticides. Um,
Yeah, well,
not
what
so
I was
sure.
seeing was
So,
gold, and it was definitely plasmic in geometry and code. I'm
well,
pretty sure is
gold
what I
is
was seeing.
is a certain color too, right? So I
Right.
don't know if it could, like, it doesn't have to be negative either, but I have like, so what are these data centers? What if all like this mist
Mm,
just starts being created everywhere? Artificial intelligence, the mist, the sentient, and the fact that they even like call it that. So I think there's like a show called Mist, or that had this mist in it, right?
uh,
You said
it was
Pantheon.
it's the writer that, Stephen King, The Mist. It was a book, and then they made a movie out of it.
Oh, right. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, see,
Mhm.
already
Yeah.
that is occult
I read
knowledge.
that book actually, and there's like these creatures inside of it, and they're all like everybody's all locked up in a grocery store, and they send people out to see what's up, and they get
Yep.
killed and
So
eaten.
again, there's
And at
that
the
sort
end
of
of it, they finally get
myth.
out.
And it could just also be like our consciousness exposing itself in the 3D, and instead of, moving through our connective beehive mind, it's like coming through us or coming to us in a mist. And a mist to me like plasma. It's kind of not like necessarily one specific platonic element, right? It's not a solid, liquid, or a gas necessarily. Might be a gas, but it might, materialize into something else, like a genie. I don't know. So I thought that was really interesting that this plutonium mist has a lot to do with code, artificial intelligence, also this this Hollywood mind control, and like
It's alien.
but this time capsule thing, which is very interesting, where the Julian Barber has described it like that, and especially if the Plutonians, right, the plutocracy, they're all about containing us within their own.
So how do you think that this is going to affect humanity? Because since our focus here is the sleeping phoenix, what do you and death is coming through 2027. How do you think that this, between 2027 to, I don't know what the actual date, I think it's 20, like I have it written down somewhere, but to where it goes back into Cancer. How is this relevant for that time?
Well, I think this is like, this is information and our consciousness coming to fruition in other like bizarre ways. It's not just all going to be kind of up in our minds so much. I think we're going to be able to see beyond the veil. The mist, though, like I could see mist coming up, and all of a sudden everybody starts
like maybe there
acting.
will be another black plague, but maybe it's like those movies
Or all of a sudden
where
everybody starts killing each
people
other
start
for
to
trading.
change.
Yeah,
They
or
start to change.
they just start to change, or
And
the mist takes
where's
over
that?
and mind
What movie is
controls
that?
them.
What movie is that where they like all of a sudden like they like just switch off? And I think it also has to do with something in the air.
Yeah,
What was
yeah.
that? There was another one. Maybe there is something like that coming. That'd be weird. Whoa,
Hmm.
interesting.
So
All
beware
right,
of the
well,
mist.
yeah, beware of the mist, you guys. But hopefully it won't be happening during our period, but it might actually. Because in Aquarius it has to do with technology. And this Lord Hades in Aquarius, this innovated technology, it's going to kill things off. But it can also kill off your ego, and really set yourself free from the system. And this is when, humans are going to be very challenged because we have been so relaxed for the last 81 years that we've completely forgot, and we're that mist, the veil was put over our eyes, that because none of us knew that there was cycles within cycles, except for like the initiates that know about this stuff, and they've been keeping it, and that's why the churches and all the religions are going to disappear, and Pluto is going to be a part of that, dissolving in the next 400 years during the sleeping phoenix in human design, because it's literally going to, again, dredge like the bottom of the ocean, because that's what Pluto basically represents, is whatever's on, I mean, it's the land scorpion though. However, it's not the lobster. Yeah, I like to call the lobster a scorpion, the sea scorpion. So yeah, it's interesting because I really feel like this is going to be a part of how the death process through Hades, and how he's going to just be like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna destroy it all. You thought you had some fun, huh? Well, I'm actually kind of glad because I'm really bored, and so this is going to be kind of exciting. It's like that movie Howl's Moving Castle when there's bombs coming down, and the witch, the old lady witch that got taken her powers away, the witch of the west, or the witch of the waste. She's like, "Oh, this is exciting," when there's bombs falling everywhere. Because, we really haven't had anything really major happen, and except for like 9/11, or at least for the United States, and that has really shook us to our core. But the world experienced that thing in your arm a few 6 years ago, and that right there, but that didn't really, it kind of shook us loose, but people went back to their daily normal lives eventually, right? They're still doing the same shit. They're not out there like, you know, well, the system itself is just coming down on its own. But maybe people are. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, one thing, I mean, there was a lot of like forward movement with the energy. I'm sure everyone felt it. All the planets in Aries, it was intense. And now with Pluto going retrograde, it's the first one. All those planets were direct. So hopefully, like you said, some intentions, planted seeds, like because with these
Yeah.
planets go forward. And so now with it's gonna go retrograde until not this October,
Ugh, October.
next
What?
October.
Are you serious? Oh, I didn't know it was next October. Holy
No, for a
shit.
very 100 and
Well, not
so
167 years it's going to go into retrograde, but it's going to go into retrograde for almost over a year, you said. Is that right? It's true. It's got to be.
it goes like
It's just going to be
well,
sitting and stationing is what's going to happen. It's going to be sitting, just like hanging out, like, you know, waiting for us to like, are you guys ready to stop being slaves to the system? Because that's literally what it's going to do. It's going to make things so fucking hard because we didn't figure it out already. We all are like, "Oh, we have all this information, but what do we do with it?" Like so it's going to be interesting to see what happens to Planeteer in 20 years. Is it going to last for 20 years? If you don't know what Planeteer is, if I'm even saying that word
okay.
right, it's the one that's creating all the data centers.
Mhm. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to like confuse you on it's retrograde until October 15th of this year, and then it does the same
Okay.
retrograde again. Yeah, I didn't mean to do that. I got the
Oh,
dates
okay,
like
I see what you're saying. Okay,
yeah,
okay,
when it
yeah,
just
that
went
makes
into
sense.
retrograde a couple weeks ago, and it's until October 15th,
Mhm.
and then in 2027, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to go into retrograde in May until October again.
Okay, that makes sense.
Almost like
100%.
almost very similar dates. May
Mm,
6th to October 15th, and
really?
then May 8th to October 18th.
So it's like again, that's a cycle. It's like going back in time almost, but the planets are going to be aligned in different places, but it's
So
really interesting that it's almost on the same date.
for like half the year.
Crazy.
Half the
Yeah.
year. So like pay attention to that because it's gonna like
Right,
so
geometry.
when it goes
There's
forward, it
mathematical
moves
equations
just
here.
as much back. Goes forward, moves just as much back. So we're gonna have like two interesting back-to-back summers with this energy.
Well, Mariah and I will also, we both were going to talk about Persephone, and I wanted to bring up, that poppies are actually a symbol of death and rebirth. It's also considered to be the core, and the reason why it's death and rebirth is because it represents the peacock. And as you know, if you've heard it before, and what a peacock does is it can get bit by the snake, which the serpent, right? The snake is usually the emblem of the serpent of the tree of good and evil. So it can take a snake bite and transmute it into and it neutralizes it, and it doesn't kill the peacock. So it also represents that. But so that's why Persephone is connected to both the poppy and Persephone. And the reason why poppies also are connected to it, I've talked about this before, is the Flanders field harvest of the dead, where Ferdinand, Archduke, on May 14th, uh, June 28th, oh God, what year was it? Let me look it up real quick, because I'm not remembering the year. Harvest of the Dead year. I had it written down. It might be in my notes here. 1863 was actually when this happened. And what it was like there's this war, this rebellion, just like every other stupid war out in the world. And he was murdered first. And after his murder, Pluto actually sextiled the moon in Virgo. So again, this is that Pluto this Hades moon being affected. But with Pluto, Pluto's always kind of in the background in Virgo, which it has to do with, literally like spring forth life, but not necessarily spring. It's like, the actual nurturing the plants and the growth. And so when Pluto is actually, this is its part, is its part is nurturing growth by death. So this remembrance day of like these poppies that bloomed on the fields of blood of millions of those that had died over this guy that got murdered. And they were left in the mud in trenches, like the blood, right? So, and these trenches actually signify Pluto's Persephone. And so the Hades moon aspect on the day of that war began bringing this, again, remember that unresolved rage that humanity, the collective consciousness, has. And because we've been shamed to not express it, but and not to talk about it, and we've been shamed to not accept that it's a part of who we are. We're holding it in. It makes us sick. It gives us cancers and stuff like that. So frustration starts to come up, because we're all supposed to be love and light, right? Love and light, man. Instead of actually acting out and saying, no, these data centers are not going to be put into place. Back in the 60s and 70s, they would uprise and they started going after banks and other things like that and literally destroying them. So this frustration and this rage is going to happen, and all this surveillance stuff is going to happen too. But at this point, who gives a fuck? Because we're all going to be so suppressed. They can't put us all in prison. So, it's this privatization of, there's not going to be any government left. And that's why the governments are actually making contracts with companies like Planeteer and probably also these prison systems, right? So also this is when North Korea, they attacked South Korea, and this is when the Korean War, the moon was in Scorpio, and that's a Hades moon. Okay. So traditionally war is ruled by Mars, like I said, but it's that fast, flashy, and zoom, it's done. It's like a 2-pump chump, right? And Pluto, though, he's like, this higher octave of Mars. So Hades is this where, these wars, such as in Vietnam, this internal conflict starts to blossom. And eventually, over time, the course of all these wars are contributing factors which span over decades and even centuries. And what we're looking at here is 167 years of that happening. And that doesn't mean wars everywhere and everything's going to go and crazy, but this is what the effects um, that start to erupt in the depths. And by these conflicts, and this serious, conflicts of like the collective dimension, we are being hooked and into this festering, pestilent disease of rage and paranoia. Because actually, the birth of the United States was at the beginning of Capricorn. 1776, that's where Pluto was in Capricorn. And so it was this unresolved paranoia, right? And it in the United States was born out of fear, literally. We have been living with that for 248 years plus, now that Pluto has moved into, because what was it? Was it 2024 when Pluto moved out? So this is that instinct. This is that war where the moon is this planet and it's governing like the shadow that we constantly don't see from the moon, right? Which is the dark side of the moon. But then we have the face of the moon and its nurturing quality. But this is that collective is going to be a stronger force, way stronger. And individuals are going to be swept up into conflict, not just with each other, but in with the disease that has become governments, politicians, all of this shit. And you can already see it starting to dissipate, and people are talking about it and are really, really looking towards Jesus Christ still, instead of their own inner authority, which human design is going to assist us in the next 400 years. So this is that cosmos mirroring back itself with the moon. And so this war and conflict is, going to show us where forgiveness and reconciliation needs to happen in our own lives. So Persephone, this is her story. Is this inner conflict with not growing the fuck up, because that's what happens to her. She's a maiden that gets raped, right? Kidnapped. That's what rape means. The rapiers, which are the shining ones, the alien technology that Miriah was just talking about, the mist that keeps us in the illusion. So, did you have anything to say about Persephone? Because I know you wanted to bring her up too.
Oh, well, she's on the next image, I guess.
You want me to go to the next one? Yeah.
Well, and this
let's
is
go
like
to that
kind
one.
of, yeah,
Hades and Persephone.
because there is something very symbolic about this whole story. Persephone representing, like Nova saying, the Virgo, the Virgin, and with the zodiac too, right? So then the scales is Libra, bringing her down closer into the underworld, where in Scorpio she meets Pluto, basically. So this is also, Virgo's ruled by Mercury. So this is that mind again, right? And taking us into the underworld. Well, one, we almost, to evolve, have to go through this process, and we do with our journey through the zodiac. But this is where the mind can get truly deranged. And if you can come out of like what they call a dark night of the soul, many of our listeners, I'm sure, have had one, if not many, where you do find yourself going into these dark places and have to really face the shadow of yourself and the shadow of the world, and look at and experience and know that like both exist, especially here
Right.
in this 3D. And so the story, it is sometimes romanticized, sometimes it's horrified, the story, choose your own adventure. But Persephone ultimately becomes the queen of the underworld in most stories. She almost becomes more powerful, where all the demons bow down,
Yeah.
right? And that's that dark feminine energy where it is embraced and it becomes the right kind of powerful. And so
It's like the masculine feminine, that animus. And everything we've talked about in the last since the beginning of the year, talking about how males are not initiated and that they need to step into their power because literally America has castrated males. And remember we talked about the Statue of Liberty being Cybele's son Attis, who she castrated. And this is that darkness that we're in right now. And the males need to rise up with cutting out alcohol because they're probably actually not going to be able to afford it, or it may not even be available anymore. Alcohol, you might have to start making your own bootleg alcohol, which is actually better because then you're going to be cutting out all the hops that shrinks your testicles. You're going to stop smoking all that fucking stupid weed because that also lowers your testosterone and your testicles and makes you more feminine. And I just want to say, Miriah, you matched the slide. I was noticing your sweater, and you
oh,
matched
nice,
the
the
slide.
yin yang. Yeah, that's right, the yin yang. Well, and that's
Yeah,
what it is.
but
It's not even just like within
yeah,
yourself, the masculine feminine within yourself. Like a
yeah,
lotus comes up from the shitty bottom of the murky waters.
the bog,
Um,
right?
yeah, and so
And all the
even
men need
in
to
this,
start looking into making gruit. Gruit. That's the thing. That's the next thing you
I
guys need
grew
to
it.
make instead
We
of
helped. What is what's grew it for our
gruit
listeners?
is instead of mead, it's called gruit, and it's
Ah,
what makes men vital. And it was it was in France, I think during the Revolutionary War or around that time, they made it illegal because what it did is it made the men vital. It made them like, I'm going to protect my people. Because right now, the males in the United States are like, not all of them, because I'm talking about males. There's males that are men and there's males that are boys. So some of them are men, and also they just weren't initiated by their fathers to how to be a man. And so, I've been asking elder men to like step into the role of like teaching males today because they don't know what they're doing. And a lot of women don't know what they're doing either because we've all been like told lies. And it's
well,
interesting
and
to me that women are actually advancing in education today, but that's still the system.
yeah,
Unless they're
no,
doing like herbal stuff like you are, you know?
right, but still, education is debt. Like I chose poverty to be
Yeah.
an herbalist. It doesn't have to be that way necessarily either, but I don't want to extract a compound from an herb and mass market it. Like that's what big pharma does, So, I guess my point got a little off topic anyway. But what I did learn, and so even girls like look at some of the graduating into a woman might be like what would we get our menstrual cycle, and sometimes that's not always well like received in a family, or the mom like we don't talk about that, depends on the generation. Or what, a sweet 16 birthday party, well that's turned into a materialistic like horror show in some places, unless you live like small towns and they don't just shower girls with material things, and that, oh now you're a woman. And so with
Mhm.
growing up with like, I saw we had like 4-H and FFA, Girl Scouts, so Boy Scouts, they would get like they'd graduate, or if you get an Eagle Scout, that was a lot of people's graduating moments that their dad might not have done, but like getting the Eagle Scout merit. I thought like people felt pretty proud about that. So like now, again, like where is this? At this herbal conference that I'm at, people are allowed to bring their children. And one lady said she's been coming like every year. She helps run it with me. And at age 11, so if they bring like their little boys, like at some point, like they can't let young men, let's say, come, because it's an all women's conference. And so they have their own little like turning like into more of a man at their last conference, and they like make a little like stick, and they have a little ritual, and I'm like, that is awesome. That's showing, instead of like, no, you can't come no more because you're going to be 12 next year. Instead, like they graduate these young kids into something next, like I like, and Nova's saying like we don't have that enough. And these rite of passage, right? They're just like, they're scary. What graduating from high school or graduating from college, like, I have debt. Now I have to go get a job. I was safer there. Whatever fucking safe means.
Yeah.
And so like Persephone did graduate. She had a hard thing to pass, and she ran with it and with flying colors and became the queen of the underworld. And that's really like taking all these lessons and embracing it, maybe not becoming a zombie or the queen of the underworld, but something like owning your own shit, owning it, and passing it on.
Yeah, and a lot of us have not been owning it, have we? A lot of us have been also making excuses of why we're not going to change because I like it. And and it's not you that likes it, it's the program, it's the leech, it's the parasite that likes it. You're not even being authentically yourself at this point. And that's what Pluto represents, is like, we're going to kill that parasite, and if you don't, you're going to get really fucking sick and you will die in the process. Because for real, not just like a spiritual death, a soul death. But the only people that are going to survive and actually reproduce are the ones that are ready to, like, put on their bootstraps and their boxing gloves and their cowboy boots, right? And they're shit kickers. They're the ones that are going to survive. All of the weak DNA in families is going to die. And I also believe that this is not just a belief; it's just a fact of life. It's the survival of the fittest, right? You also have to consider that souls are just going to be complete. They're going to be done because we have multiplied so much, and it's not like Earth is overpopulated. I don't believe in that shit. Because what it did in the last 81 years, it multiplied so much that because we forgot who we were, and it needed to quicken itself for the collective consciousness. The all needed to like have a really fast experience to collect information, because all this data, right? It's got to collect all this data into the Akashic record, and its obsession with data is like, how we evolve. So you're going to see, souls that are actually complete, and they're going to just leave because their mission was completed, or their soul mission, their own personal mission, not, and this whole idea of like, oh, we got to serve each other. That's like Buddhist bullshit. Okay. Where it's not about, that's not how you get ascension. Okay. That's not how you get out of this.
Like Mother Teresa?
Literally, it's, yeah. Yeah. Oh, Mother Teresa. Yeah.
Like some of
Yeah.
these
Like Gandhi.
these prophets, they actually were like actual vampires. And so
yeah, they were.
and
There was that
here
one
they
guy
were
that
like,
was in
oh,
Santa Fe,
they
or
were just,
no, in Taos, New
they gave
Mexico.
themselves over to humanity, like
Mhm.
and I could be wrong. We could be wrong, but like something like that
No,
might
we're not
not
wrong.
be.
I'm sorry.
But it's like constantly like serving, but then also like working extra hard. Like this material thing where you have to have all these jobs, give yourself. Where and when is anybody being able to receive? We're all depleted. Like really, and it's where everyone has spread out and we are just depleted of our own energy anymore, and we're having to like rebuild it. It's kind of interesting, so that we can come back
I see
together.
I'm gonna interrupt for a second because there's
Please.
there's in the chat they're going a little crazy. Pretty soon there's not going to be any police to arrest anybody. Okay, it's literally going to go to the Wild West. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and
The
there
only
might be
people that
some
are
sort of
going
prison.
to
You
there's
might
going
not
to
be
be
able to
like
leave your
paid,
home.
what do they call
Real. Huh?
paid what are those
Advertisers?
people that go, they're not military, but they go over and kill people. Mercenaries. That's
Assassins,
what it's going to turn
CIA,
into,
the U.S.
is
military.
people that own everything that's money wise. There's going to be hired as mercenaries, and they're usually going to be from out of the country, and they will come over and kill American people or wherever you are in the world
Or push you
and
out of
wherever
your
you
home or
live.
business because they have to put up a data center, and
Yeah.
we don't know what they're really fucking for. This to
I
me
actually
is
live in a
mind-boggling.
county where there's a posse, believe it or not, and they're fucking pieces of
They're
shit
popping up
because they
very fast.
they are not for the people. They are for the corrupt sheriff, and they all are in bed together. So a posse isn't necessarily a
And
good
what they're doing
thing.
is they're taking all
Okay?
the energy from that area and then they'll go somewhere else. They're just like siphoning energy
Yeah,
and
100%.
raping the
They're like
like the
they
worst
put
parasites
people,
we've seen
like
in our
my
lifetime
neighbor, he
probably is
murdered
happening.
if you guys know, uh my neighbor murdered somebody and he never even went to court. They just like let him go. Like they just said, "Oh, you didn't do it because you said you didn't." Are you fucking kidding me? Because the
Wild West
posse are
was
in
good
bed with
enough for
each
me.
other. Yeah.
Yes, of
Yep.
course.
So anyways, this is what we're coming into, is like,
That's what
you're
they
going to
talked about.
have to take over your own your own justice system. That is not, that's going to dissolve. That's not going to exist any longer. You're listening to Poppy's Field Project. What is it? What's going on? Anyways, so we get together each Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern. It's Miriah and I today. Matthew's out and about. And we are talking about the Pluto that's going to be transiting through the next 167 years all the way to Cancer, and how that timeline, there's going to be all this death and souls are going to be leaving, and also birth rates are going to be dropping, as we already see, and we kind of know why, because that thing in the arm, right? So we have a decision to make, within this, also this sleeping phoenix, which is that 400-year cycle. That's what we're also talking about. We have a decision: are we going to continue to be like dipshit humans, because we're going to become extinct? And if you don't think that humans are not going to go extinct, you got to go back and look at history of all the humanoids that have been born, and Neanderthals and all this other, type. There's actually a race that was like a hobbit. They died. They went extinct. Okay, and we will. Will go extinct because we're dumb. We're dumb as fuck. We sit here and fucking fight each other over stupid shit and believe other systems because of the way our bodygram is easily manipulated. And so evolution is going to birth a new root race next year. Whether they survive or not, that's going to be another story. But there is a mutation, and they're not human. So this tree of life and death, that golden spiral, fuck that shit. We want the crystal spiral, right, Miriah?
That's
I know they work
right.
together, but fuck the gold and spiral.
Well, and that, I mean, that's why everybody's like so confused and lost anyway. Where are we to know what is up and what is down? And that brings us to the tree of life and the tree of death. So, like all trees, right, they have their root system. And so the tree of life, the Sephirah, has the Qiphoth, and that is the Qlithoth. Sorry, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. Because the Sephirah is spelled similar, but yet they're pronounced different. So the Qliphoth, we'll just call it that, is the opposing energy and force from the tree of life, as above, so below. And this is kind of where I think, the negativity can kind of come up from Earth. Like Earth is, we want to be connected to above and below as well. But in the Zohar, this like means like these are the remnants of shattered divine vessels that failed to contain the overwhelming divine light during creation, becoming corrupted and unholy. So it's the dark side of the tree of life. And the word Qlithoth means in Hebrew husks or shells. Because they themselves are the shadow counterparts to the 10 Sephirah eminence of the tree of life. And so what's weird is they will suck the life out of you and leave you like just a husk, just a shell. And so that's exactly what they do. And so you'll see, I just feel like this is a portal, like you'll see on in movies, Stranger Things, like that show. You'll see these creatures coming through, and this is what they are tapping into, is this dark energy, the tree of death, which is the inverted tree of life, and it's the roots. And so it grows upward from the ground toward the sky, inverted, the
Hades.
natural growth of mortal trees. And so what's really weird is these phantom death creatures, they feed off of blood clots, of all things. I think that was kind of really interesting because the
Oh,
blood clots,
interesting. There's the snake in
um
the tree.
they store human and demon blood both. So what did everybody, I shouldn't say, a lot of people got what side effect from that thing in the arm? Blood clots.
Right. These worms, the parasite, right?
Yeah, so
That got
that
all over
means
their
that those
bodies.
blood clots have human
You're a
and
tree of life,
something else
right? It represents
blood.
you.
And so the demonic creatures like Impusa and the Nidhogg, Nidhogg, I don't know how do you pronounce it?
Where are you at?
Nidhogg, right? What's up? The
I was just
Impusa and the
looking at,
Nidhogg.
is it in the notes?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
let me see if I can.
they help feed and protect this root system. And so yeah, it's kind of gross. It's kind of gross, but this is the reality of reality. And so there has to be balance. Otherwise, all this negativity, like it's the branches, they grow down and these portals really open up. And so this is where we get these phantom demons, and they're playing out the consciousness of where humanity is too. And so I don't know. What do you think about that? Anybody experience this? And this is
Well,
really where this occult knowledge
I
begins.
mean,
Is like,
when you look at the word Klipfoth, right? That is, to me, Thoth. So
the Qliphoth.
Cliffoth, because think of Thoth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And clipping it, the Q is that circle with the serpent, is it not? It's the parasite. That's what that represents. And it's like knowledge is thoth. It's the thought. It's your mind. So this would be that symbolic demonic mind parasite that has infiltrated and took over the rape of Sophia and created masculine energy that has destroyed uh, the mind, right? Because that's the left side of the brain, right? That's where you're constantly, oh, it's got to be logical. Well, you stay in that logical mind, that's where you lose, because we're supposed to use both sides of the mind, like Miriah's shirt, black and white, masculine, feminine. You, in order to see, you have to not only have knowledge, you have to be able to connect.
No, but where'd you go? Started cutting out. Hey Nova, if you're talking, we can't hear you.
Oops, sorry. That
Oh,
the
that's
little
fine. I was
tail with
like,
the O is is that is that is that fucking damn thing. Anyways, the little O is that it's that circle, it's the world, it's and I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself because I don't know where I left off, but it represents that cyclical, like constant, repetition, and where the snake is eating its tail, the Ouroboros, the Aurora Borealis, the plasma, right? The reality of matter has been infiltrated by that little tail, which is considered to be the serpent, okay, which is the parasite that has taken over, which is the mind. And Klipfoth, that's, I'm pretty sure how you say it, because you say like thoth, you say thoth, and ph, right, is a f in it. So I believe that this is what's happening, and this is why we've all been consumed by consumerism. Like, if you're still in that, like eating cereal, like I dated a couple people that ate cereal and they were emotionally deranged. Um, if you're eating like fried foods, if you're eating out, none of that food is food. It's all poison. All of it. So you're clip fucked. you are being you have a parasite and you are not yourself. And you can be mad at me all you want and like not understand what I'm saying, but this is esoteric knowledge by looking at the words, which eventually, because of 2027, that's not even going to exist anymore. Language is not going to be needed because of the new race that's coming, which I will get into a little bit more. But I want to move forward though. So we've talked about how Capricorn to the moon is what is this process of Pluto through the next 167 years, and Capricorn is literally the father and the moon would be the mother, okay, and they oppose each other and they're supposed to be semi-neutral, but we're not, and this is why we're seeing death and rebirth, death and rebirth, death and rebirth. And actually Mia Farrow has a Capricorn opposing her Saturn, like I do. If you guys know who Mia Farrow is, she is the wife to that perverted comedic Jewish guy from the 60s and 70s that married his adopted daughter or got into a relationship with her. Oh God, what's his name? I keep on forgetting his name because to me he doesn't exist anymore. But this is that weird shit. But this is where Capricorn and Saturn opposing. This is where Hades' moon makes orphans. Okay, and during the end of Pluto in Capricorn to 2024, before it moved into Aquarius, how many people do you think died worldwide? Oh yeah, it was Woody Allen. Oh, there goes Miriah. 370 million people worldwide died. And we all know why. I mean, there were some accidents and that and all this other stuff, but those accidents were considered to be the video, right? The screen. So the soul's journey during Capricorn, it is these birth rates is coming, like I said, it's coming to where the soul is starting to complete itself. And when Pluto transits through these signs, many souls choose to exit through incarnational cycles, or they, because of their lessons are complete and their field is, or the field is too unstable, because we live in a lattice. There's a field. It's connected to the ley lines. It's connected to the Birkeland currents. And so it's too unstable for further growth, so they die, which is nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. Energy doesn't die. They just go back into the source, take a breather, and then have to come back when they decide, because this is not, there's no punishment here at all. This is just a choice of coherence. This is why 340 million people, which is actually probably more than it has ever happened before with war. When I looked up all of the numbers of like the death tolls, I didn't look up all of it, but 340 million was more than anything. And that's just worldwide. Okay. So at this point, we can't fear the Father anymore, because why? He's the authoritor. And because the sleeping phoenix is coming in, this is where you are the authority. Now, you don't look, this is why the police are going to die off, because people are no longer going to agree with them. They're going to fire them. They're going to probably kill them. Okay. I'm not saying to do that, but that's just what's going to happen because of suppression. And you can see this in other countries where police are either laying arms down and saying, okay, you're right, I need to side with my people. Okay. And that's another reason they're just going to walk away. They're going to move on. And so, because this is that cycle of evolution where we're starting to see, like, we can't always judge, because a lot of these police are hall monitors. Okay. They're the ones that, were picked on, whatever. And then you got some that are from the military that are damaged from, PTSD, or they have PTSD in their family, because actually PTSD comes down into a child through the father's line. So you're going to see this recalibrating where it's going to be in the non-physical. They're departing, but they're not lost. Okay. So the birth rate is also going to decline. This is, this is Pluto, where it starts to transit, where it's not scarcity. Okay. But it's this field adjustment. What I mean by field is literally there's, all these multi-dimensions happening at once on this planet. That's why you meet people and you're in relationships with them, and one day they're one person and one day they're another person, because it's a different timeline that you're jumping in between, and you get to choose which one you want to be in. Okay. And they've had movies about this. They tell us all the time in symbolism if you just paid attention. So this is like the collective. It's um it doesn't need to be billions of people anymore, if there are even billions of people on the planet. Okay, it's it's more about quality of presence over quantity of form. That is what's coming in the next 167 years, plus the 400 years when all this death in, because you got to remember, it's not going to all happen at once. It's going to take like 100 years first, and then it will eventually dissolve. And then it will go into a whole nother cycle after 412 years. It's really not that long. So, so this whole population control narrative too, that there's just too many of us, that's a distortion of justified control. Okay. That's because the consciousness collective itself wants to control. That's because you as a human being are using your brain, your logical brain, instead of coming into your heart and wanting to control everything and everybody, and including, because you don't even want to control yourself. You want others to control you. You want others to be the authoritator. So that's why this sleeping phoenix is here, is to get rid of that parasite, that you are the authority, you are the traveler. There is no one but God, the all, which is in charge, not humans. And it even says it in the Bible that don't follow man's law, you follow God's law. And that's where humans have been faltering for the last 400 years, or even longer than that. So we're going to see that the numbers are in distribution, consumption, and coherence. It's all going to, the Earth's capacity is going to start changing. The birth rates already have dropped to 16.1 per 1,000. In the 1950s, 37 births per 1,000 happened. In South Korea, 86% has fallen since the 50s. The fertility rates have fallen to 72% in Brazil. And the most of the world is at 2.1 as of 2025. That's not much per thousand. You have Taiwan, which is at 0.69, South Korea 0.8, and Italy 1.2 births per thousand. So this is literally, again, we're going back to Capricorn and Cancer. So between 1776 and 1922, this period saw a dismantling of old monarchies. And this is why I'm predicting that the politicians, the police, all of it is going to just dissolve. Because the old monarchies, these rise of there was also a rise of industrialization and significant collective upheaval. There were wars, famines, and migrations. And in China, this era was marked by immense suffering. And I actually believe that China will eventually probably be one of the first be the first to become extinct, because Chinese are actually from the Atlantean root race, not the Aryan root race. And this is that reflecting of the Pluto's destructive and constructive power. And then I'm going to just go for a little bit longer here. I want to go over the mother first. Cancer, this is when the uprising starts to happen, where the floration births, more people are born, and she's ready to give birth, because right now we're in the death stage where we're doing all this shadow shit. But now you better have figured out that shadow, because now it's going to be about survival. So when it comes back to Cancer in 167 years, probably, knock off a couple because we've already, been through a couple years. This research of like this aspect of the Hades moon is often the Cancer Capricorn axis. And I've explored many of these signs, through our podcast. So if you guys don't know this information, you should go back and look at. Miriah and I did a whole year of like astrology. It was intense, and it was all about how to survive what's coming, because I didn't know that this was here, but I sensed it. I knew, because I feel things. I have this emotional frequency that I'm connected to, the field that I know when shit's going to go down. And I've been warning people for like the last, before I even started doing my podcast. I started Poppy's for Project on Facebook, and I ended up deleting that account when the pandemic happened. So, so the gate of incarnation and the gate of initiation is this masculine and feminine where they meet in the chart, and the axis is that it starts to indicate like the cosmic parents, right? Because Cancer is the mother. So this is where she, she starts to, or actually they begin to take off, where there's this life or this death struggle, and there's this constant going back and forth, and you can see it in our relationships with each other. Instead of unifying, we're in relationships where we're constantly repeating the old same patterns over and over again, instead of choosing to like step up and grow the fuck up and be adults and own our own authority. And that's what the sleeping phoenix is going to do to everybody that survives, is they're going to change so intensely that we're going to have more peace and understanding after this 412 years. So this is where they start to signify two of these entrances to Hades, actually, that Persephone and Hades, right? So the place that is unresolved rage and frustration within you can be plucked, can pluck the unaware into the gates of hell, literally. And so communism is considered Cancer. That's going to die off. It's not going to be existing anymore. Socialism is going to die off. That is also the mother. Kaiser Wilhelm and the Tsar Nicholas, overbearing father, opposite of Capricorn. Okay. These were people that, were overbearing and wanted to control, and this is where communism came in. And the mother can be, if she's not the dragon mother, she can be the dark mother, which is very controlling. And that's what we're experiencing. We need to grow the fuck up out of and start taking responsibility for our own healing process and stop blaming everybody outside of ourselves. So on July 4th in 1776, the moon was in Aquarius. Remember, I've talked about like the moon? It was sextiling Pluto. Hello, what have I said? Anytime the moon and Pluto come together, you got to watch it in the stars. It is literally going to start war. And this is when the enemy out there, the American fear-based system, was born. No shit. And and that's why it has to die. Because do you guys want to keep living this way? Like, seriously? Unless you're just a sloth and that's all you think about is poor me, victimhood. I don't feel sorry for you. I love you, but I'm not going to tell you, oh, it's okay, because it's not okay. Y'all need to gain your true selves, or not, and we can all just still be miserable and just kill each other and go through the cycle again. How's that sound? You guys ready for that? Anyways, I love all of you regardless. This is why I am a little tough. I am a dragon mother. I am not a dark mother. I will not step on you to tell you what to do. I will step aside and let you figure it out on your own. But I'm here just sharing this fun stuff because I love esoteric knowledge. And this is where I'm supposed to be with my my human design for this sleeping phoenix. I am going to be using my 54.6 gate, which is the witness, to build an empire. And I need people to help me, but a small group. I don't want a big group. So if you're out there and you really want to, make a change, you got to, hopefully you've been working on yourself since 2026 or 2020 at least. Like Greg out there said, are mushrooms good? Yes, they are. Is cigarettes good? No, they're not. Is tobacco good? Sure. Without all of the bullshit, because you need nicotine in your body to keep you healthy. But you don't have to smoke it. You can put a patch on your arm. Okay. Is alcohol good for men? No, it's not. It's not. Is porn good for men? No, it's not. It's not. Is ejaculating good for men? No, it's not. It's wasting your energy. Every single one, every single time you know, give the money. Why do you think they call it the money shot? Energy exchange. You're taking life out of your aura every time you do that. And it's too bad there aren't men out here talking about this shit, but there's a few out there, like Michael Tazarian. I don't know who else. There's a couple, but maybe you guys can name a few of them, because I would love for some of y'all men to like find your mentors to help you through this, because I can't. I'm women need to stick with the women during this time to like help each other, because we've been mothering you for too long, and you guys look to us and say, "Oh, help me," and it's like, I'm not your mom. Okay, you guys need to figure it out how to initiate yourselves. I say right now, go out. I had this idea. There's this woman in this town where I live. She's a rancher, and she's going to take her cattle out for a week. And what is it called? Oh, they run them, or I can't remember what the name is. I've heard it before, and I was like, oh yeah, I know what it is. Anyways, she's taking them out for a week, and I said I should go talk to her and say that to keep her staff, that you know all the real men that go out there and help her, because those are real men. They have like leathery skin that you can barely put a needle in. My friend knows these people and used to like take their blood, and they're tough as nails because they live in nature and they know how to work in it. And I said, well, you know what would be great is she could actually make money by inviting a group of men or a group of males out on this journey for a week, have her normal staff, and help these men become men and learn how to survive out in nature with other men, because that's what you need right now, not gyms with stupid muscles that are not going to do anything for you because they're too stiff. You got to start doing Tai Chi if you want to kick some ass, or Taekwondo or Kung Fu. Learn how to use your chi, because big muscles are just dead weight, and you're gonna be the first ones, you know, to go, unless you can just grab somebody and squeeze them, but you can't. It doesn't make you strong in will. It makes you strong in physical, maybe, but your will has to be stronger than your strength in your body. So, anyways, I love you guys, and I'm not giving you a hard time. I just really want to see you guys heal, because it's really difficult to watch all of you struggle. And I wanted to mother you, and I was mothering males, boys. They weren't quite men yet. And I was like, why am I doing this? And it was a program. Women have been taught to do this, and women need to step the fuck back off and say, I'm not going to be in relationship with this person, with this man, until he figures his shit out. And they need to let males raise their male children. Women, back the fuck off. When your son becomes 7 years old to 12 years old, you let that father take that responsibility. It is not yours. And this is one of the biggest issues on our planet right now. That was a lot. So, anyways, we're going to continue with this. I'm going to go over next week. I am stopping the slides because I want Miriah and Matthew to be able to come in. And I will be continuing with the history to show you why civilization is going to be decapitated and dissolved in the next 167 years, and the system we knew or know is going to be the system we knew because it's not going to be here anymore, and I can prove it. And you're not quite sure why. Well, you got to come back next week at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern. Look at your clock right now. We've been going for an hour and 41 minutes, and that will give you the exact time to go back and set it in your clock. And so, and start thinking about it. If you are a man out there in the world that feels like you are desperate and depressed and don't know what to do, start looking for, they have dude ranches, they have male support systems all over the place. I've actually posted some on Poppy's Field Project, and I wanted to let you all know that I am going to be opening the Telegram chat in Poppy's Field Project. I will actually do that right now, and I will put the link up for everybody. So if anybody wants to come in and have a chit chat with um, all the men in here live, and I can, I usually just participate. I listen a lot. Sometimes I'll say things, but I really would like to hear the men, uh, share with each other and support each other and show that it's okay to be confused. It's okay to be scared and not know what the fuck you're doing. But you know what? It's not okay to ignore it any longer. You have the capabilities, you have the support system. It's just there, and you're not wanting to deal with it. So here's the link. And I'm out of here, you guys. We'll see you on the other side in Telegram. And I want to wish you all well and much love to everyone. And we'll get to you next week. More on the Sleeping Phoenix. Much love, everyone. Good night. Oh, hit that like button and share button if you'd like for other people to know. And thank you, AM Wake Up. Forgot to say that. So focused. We appreciate Steve for everything that you do, because we know that we're like the ugly stepchild of the group, because we're so different, and that's okay. I appreciate being different. So anyways, love you, love everyone, and we hope to see you in Telegram.